I'm doing fine. So leave me alone, so leave me alone, so leave me alone. I'm doing fine. So leave me alone, so leave me alone, so leave me alone. I'm doing fine. So leave me alone, so leave me alone, so leave me alone. I'm doing fine. So leave me alone, so leave me alone, so leave me alone, leave me alone.
It's been too long, Terry.
A whole 7 days, right?
It's been a full 7 days. I feel like I've come to rely on you. Maybe too much, maybe unfairly.
The feeling's mutual, man. I kind of missed you over the last 7 days, man.
You know what?
How was your Thanksgiving? Before we get too far,
it felt like Thanksgiving in a strange way. I didn't do a turkey. I did something called a drunken chicken. Are you familiar with this recipe?
Drunken chicken?
Yeah.
No.
So what you do, not because a chicken has no dignity ever to begin with anyway, right? At least not in America. Maybe there are some cultures who treat the chicken with some sort of compassion and empathy. But we don't, certainly here in America. So what you do, you take this dead chicken's carcass and you shove a beer can up its ass. And then put it, you put then put it on the grill and let it cook for about an hour and a half, and it's delicious. Delicious.
I didn't know. I just called it beer can chicken. I didn't know it was called drunken chicken.
Probably similar recipes. Yeah, I would think. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's delicious. How about you, buddy? I know that if you want to recap a little bit, you were going to do something where you were trading dishes outside and not doing the full inside deal.
Yeah. We did a trade-off. My dad did a turkey, deep fried turkey.
Oh, that's right, deep fried turkey.
Yeah, deep fried turkey. And my mom made a couple of things, and then we just did a switch off. I was actually only in charge of the green bean casserole.
That's it.
I made green bean casserole, but I made gargantuous amounts of it. So
I don't think I'm familiar actually with that recipe, to be honest, Terry.
Oh, come on, man! It's easy. It is delicious. You've had it though, right?
I don't think I have.
Oh my God!
I know.
It's like green beans and the crispy fried onions.
Oh, that's it. Oh, okay. Yeah, I've had that.
Yeah.
I just call it. God, what don't those crispy fried onions make better? I put that shit in ice cream.
Everything, man.
Yeah. So it was a day. Football ended earlier than you kind of wished it had, obviously, and that game still has yet to be played, which is hysterical.
Still,
still maybe tomorrow, but who knows?
Probably not.
Hey, Tom. You're right there. Are you ready to go? Give me a thumbs up.
He said he's
ready to go. Okay. Let's add to the Island of Misfits and bring on Tom Wassell. Hey, Tom. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Great to see you guys, both of you.
Okay. Good to see you.
Wow.
And let me just say, Tom now definitely wins the Anarchist Jurisdiction Award. Terry, I'm sorry he's taking it from you for the most interesting background.
I was trying to pick up everything that was going on there.
Yeah.
I see the Indiana.
You got Indiana.
We got Indiana in the back, or the red up there. Then we got Saturday night's main event. That's like old school WWF.
Right. I remember that.
And then we got 3 guitars, 2 basses, some sheet music, and then we got a couple of amps back there, a microphone for my own personal use, and a little MIDI keyboard. No.
So you're trying to tell the world, I still have a lot going on. Don't worry about it.
I do. Well, I actually just started my what I hope is going to turn into my own Twitch show.
Yeah.
The Tom Wassell show on Twitch, because that's the 21st century version of TV or something. I hope.
I'm still not hip to the Twitch, man. Can you school me real quick?
Probably not, because I suppose I've learned a whole bunch just in the last couple of days.
Yeah. In
getting everything hooked up, but it is getting it set up it's not as easy as clicking on Periscope and going. I mean, there is a lot to it, but there's a lot more capability with it. It looks like a real show as opposed to just turning on your iPhone and going.
This is that what you're
but
saying? Then this does.
Pretty much,
I
yeah.
don't know what
that's
you
it.
guys. I can't actually see you guys at the moment. I'm looking at myself. I suppose I could scroll there. Wait, there we are. There are the three of us there. How about that?
Yeah, you're gonna kill it with Twitch.
Oh, man. Oh, wait, there I am. Yeah, so it's I think it's a good way to monetize what we do or what we'd like to be doing. So I think that's my best bet for now, and that's what we're going with. So I need to make this is our spare room actually. I need to make it
Yeah.
look, a little interesting, I suppose.
Terry, you'll recognize this phase. Tom is in phase 1, which is lying to himself that he's going to do something that's going to replace the income that the company used to give him.
Well,
You gotta start somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tom, I'm of course. Tom, you were on 710 Sports until recently, and you were someone that I always enjoyed talking to there because you're an atypical sports host for sure.
In what way?
But I mean, just physically,
Yeah,
you're much weaker than the other hosts. Yeah, yeah.
I don't know about
but
that, man. I don't know. I think he might be able to take Danny.
Oh well, yeah. Danny is the most atypical. Yeah.
There actually is. I'm not going to tell you where, but there is existing video footage of Danny and I in a drunken wrestling match from like 7 years ago. And let me tell you something, it ain't pretty.
Oh, I would pay to see it.
Yeah, it was like two like slugs or sloths just sort of like kind of moving around on the ground on top of one another.
Why were you wrestling each other?
Alcohol.
There was a lot of not
sexual tension.
No, there was a lot of wild turkey consumed that night.
Okay, yeah.
I do it every time.
Yeah.
So Tom, I want to ask you, what did you do wrong? Why aren't you working with the company anymore? How did you mess up?
Oh.
Come on, man.
No comment.
We were all existed at some point in that building. So kudos to you for being the last one of us out of there. But if you're uncomfortable talking about it, I have some theories.
It's not actually a matter of comfort. So
it's not okay. Then we'll move on from it.
Yeah.
But you're going to eventually appreciate the freedom that you now have, and I think that you will be in a good position to exploit that freedom and actually truly come to appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, look, you were on the air for a while. I was on the air there for close to a decade. I mean, the thing, it's not the thing that I enjoyed the most, but one of the things that I really enjoyed the most was making a true connection to the listener. Like somewhere along the line, I realized that it's not, maybe I always knew it, but like, it's not about just coming on whatever platform, whether it's radio or this, and just telling everybody how much you know about sports or how much you think you know, right? Talking at people. I felt like after a while, I learned how to address the audience and actually make connections. Yeah, social media and stuff like that helps too. But like, I know how to talk to people. Not inherently. I mean, maybe a little bit, but like, I paid attention to that, to the importance of that. And, you know, when I was, I got a lot of well wishes, far more than I thought I would get. I was really overwhelmed. And which, you know, that says to me, all right, you can go forward and you can build something. You know, it may be small. I mean, my plan actually is to have my hand in a couple of different circles, right? Not just one thing. But because I probably should have done that to begin with. But I think that that's a really good place to start, knowing that I connected to people maybe in a way that not every other host did. And when it's funny, you say I'm atypical, not just in my not just with respect to my physical presence, but it's just the way, it's who I am. I think, what's interesting in this industry is that we call people radio personalities, but we leave out the personality part of that. Like, people come on and they talk about sports, but they're not really personalities in a lot of cases. And you end up with a lot of mediocre results, I think, because of that. Because people don't, like, when you go on the radio or you're an actor or whatever, if you're a public figure, you have to turn the volume up on yourself. Well, whoever you are, you don't want to be, you don't be fake about it, but you have to amplify, whoever you are, because people need to hear it. They need to receive it. And I don't think everybody really gets that. And it's not because they're not trained. You either know it or you don't.
Right.
Or you either pay attention and make it a priority or you don't. But that's something that I definitely did. I'd say the last, once I got comfortable on the air. And so, just based on that, I know what's been told to me, I know that I made those kind of connections with the people in the Seattle area, which for a little while, I didn't think that was something I was ever going to be able to do.
I mean, you were a voice here for almost a decade. You had to know, man, I'm connected to these people on some level. I mean, I've been here for 10 years talking to people every day, different hours of the day, different hours of the night. You had to know that you were connected to people on some level.
Yeah, but I mean, when you come from another place, especially when it's sports where, the Seahawks are ours and nobody else's, and the Mariners are ours and nobody else's. When you come from another place, it can be tricky in an area like Seattle that's so isolated to convince people that you're really with them. You come in every single day and it's like, oh, well, he's just a Giants fan. What does he know? So, and plus, when you go from the producer chair to the hosting chair, Zach, I know you've probably dealt with this a little bit, getting that credibility as a host, getting people to take you seriously in that way, that can be difficult too. So there's a couple things that needed to be overcome there. But, time is, well, depending on how you look at it, it's your ally. I mean,
in a weird way, though, Tom, that's a lot more difficult to establish in the sports world than it is in the non-sports world.
That's what, yeah.
Yeah. For you to establish credibility, coming as an outsider, for someone like Brock Heward has immediate credibility.
Definitely.
Terry, you have credibility. I mean, not that you don't earn it, but you look at you Tom, kind of an outsider. I think that there's sometimes a more difficult adjustment going to something as niche as sports than there is in the general talk format that I never really thought that I struggled to gain credibility, and I always thought that the sports guys had it a lot tougher in that regard, because if you fuck up one stat, or you mistakenly say the wrong year the Seahawks won the Super Bowl, or the wrong amount of times that Richard Sherman went to the Pro Bowl, listeners will just cling to that forever.
They will. And there's something that's, I mean, a lot of listeners might be under the delusion that they can do my job, but maybe not yours on the news side. Because everybody's a sports fan, right? We can all turn on the TV and get mad and talk about what we saw. So why can't I go on the radio and do that? Well, because there's a million other things to it. Go try it.
I think everybody could do it for a day.
No.
Yeah,
one day. Everyone's got a show.
Maybe even a day.
Maybe even a
day. Coming from somebody who tried to do it for a day the first time, it definitely wasn't as easy for me coming in cold out the street without ever having stepped foot into a radio station and done the whole process of introducing and all that. I can speak from the average Joe that tried to come out the gate. It is very tough. It's not as easy as you think. There's a lot more work that goes into it than the average Joe would assume. You just don't come on off the street and talk sports.
True.
Right. I mean, look, it's not backbreaking work, but at the same time, it's a discipline. And if you want to stretch it even further, maybe at the risk of sounding pretentious, it's an art form. It's definitely performance art, right?
It's performance,
you're going on there. It's entertainment. So there's got to be some kind of art to it. And reps make you better. Experience makes you better, as it would in any field. But
weird that I kind of disagree with you about that, Tom. Is that I think that
experience doesn't matter?
No, I think experience matters, but I think that reps at some point make you worse because you settle into your audience, and this is the opinion.
Well, if you let it make you worse.
Well, but it's human nature that something becomes so easy that you no longer really work hard at getting better at it. So if you all of a sudden if this audience is built in is going to listen to you simply because you're on the air, I think that no one is as good in year 15 of their radio career as they are in year 5.
I think it depends on how hungry you are as a.
That's up to you.
Yeah.
But name somebody who's better. Name somebody who's after that much time. Because hungry is either you're just you're competitive and you want to get after it all the time, or hungry is you need to be this good, because if you don't, you're going to get canned. And in year 15, for a lot of people, that's not really the case. They have advertiser relationships and everything. I just think
Mike Greenberg and Bob Costas, 15 years, and Al Michaels, just off the top of my head, 15 years into their career were much better than they were when they were.
TV is very different than radio.
Oh, so are we talking about the radio?
Well, those guys all host radio shows or have.
Who? Oh, Mike Greenberg. Yeah, Greenberg. You're right.
Years.
Yeah, Greenberg has. Yeah, perhaps.
I mean,
he's
they
better
do.
now.
Look, my point
Costas and Michaels
don't. Experience that makes you worse. Maybe the time can, because you get older, maybe you fall out of touch or whatever. It's not the experience, though. That's only going to arm you further if you continue to treat it like a discipline and really pay attention. Otherwise, yeah, sure, you can get lazy, but that's just, you're right, that's human nature, but that's not the experience that's making you worse.
I feel like just sometimes the experience when it comes to radio allows you to realize there's a bunch of shortcuts, and then you just start taking those shortcuts.
Option, but again, you have to take it. We've seen it. I can give you examples of that, sure. Guys that just crest on their reputation. That definitely happens, and they get overpaid, and every other host in the building resents them. We all know that.
I feel like that would happen in any industry, in any field, in any profession. Now, people get complacent, and they're like, "Hey, I could just coast away through this and cash a check." I don't think that's just exclusive to radio, though.
I don't think so either. But it is interesting that reps make you better, certainly in the beginning. And Tom, you and I have pretty identical backgrounds in terms, not really in the format, but we were producers for a very, very, very long time, and then eventually got the opportunity to go on air. And I'm sure if you listened to the first couple of days that you were a host instead of a producer, you'd cringe the same way that I did.
I've never gone back and listened to those tapes.
Oh, yeah,
we might be saying the same thing, but like reps are going to make you go like this. Right. So I hear what you're saying. Like, you're not going to, from year 15 to 20, you're probably not going to get as good as you did between year 5 to 10. But whether it's laziness or just that a person isn't capable of getting that much better at that same exponential rate, that's, up for debate.
Which again would be similar to a ton of other industries.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What do you miss most about it, Tom? What do you miss most about being on the air 5 days a week?
Nothing.
Really?
Wow. That's lightning. I wasn't expecting that one.
No, I wasn't expecting nothing.
Well, with the knowledge that I know that I'm going to continue, as I said, dabbling in a handful of things, including live broadcasts, which I'll probably be doing pretty much every day, and certainly after, after big games, things like that.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So moving forward, then the lane that you're going in, where are you going with this thing? Are you going to be like the same kind of format that you guys were doing, that you've been doing for the past few years? Are you going to go more on a national scale? Like, I want to talk about all the sports across the country that I like, that I follow. Do I want to dive into social issues? Do I want to get into talk about music? What is it?
Yeah. I got a couple of different plans. So with Twitch, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with Patreon.
So
yeah,
we're familiar.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So, there's like subscriber exclusivity. There's different ways you can work that out. I mean, I think at a basic level, for people who just sort of want to drop in, I'm starting by managing the same or addressing the same kind of content that they would be used to hearing me talk about, just to give them something familiar, right? Because they're not used to being on Twitch, or they're used to being on the radio, or at least like the app, listening that way. So I need to give them something familiar in that way. But yeah, I mean, I want to talk music. I want to play music. All the music for my show, like I have like a waiting room that rolls for about a half an hour before I actually go on, so people can gather. Like, I've got loops of music that I wrote myself, and that I've got an intro that I wrote myself. Like, I want to get that stuff out there too. I want to, play. If it weren't for COVID, I'd still be out there playing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, if there's a way I can incorporate that type of stuff too, that it's a little down the road, but maybe not that far down the road. And as far, you mentioned, Terry, did you say politics or
anything? I mean,
whatever it is. That
awful.
stuff, that stuff has its way of finding has a way of finding itself into sports, I guess. Anyway, so yeah, that stuff will come up, and I will address that stuff in a more like unvarnished way than
What do you mean?
would have.
What I was getting at.
Couple.
Yeah. What do you mean and why?
Yeah, there's only so
Because
much.
I can.
You gotta draw the line. Like,
Why couldn't you before?
So, I'm sorry. Well, I'll answer that in a sec, Zach. I couldn't understand, Terry.
No, I was just saying, because I know, working for the company, there's, you can only cross the line to a certain degree. You can't really delve completely into some of the things you probably want to.
Right.
Being under the 710 umbrella, and now that you're on your own, you can do you.
Yeah, I mean, look, when there's no oversight, and the only thing you're concerned with is how your audience may react. I mean, you still have to take that into consideration and say, okay, well, am I going to just drive everybody out of here? Or, like, how do I want to manage that? But certainly when there's no threat of getting a talking to,
Right.
it just changes the game significantly. Yeah. That's all. And I'm not going to come out and intentionally like set fire to the situation just for attention. I'm really not. I don't think I'm not that type of person. But if something comes up and I feel like, look, this is something I've always wanted to say, I haven't heard it said anywhere else, I need to get this out. Like, I'll do it. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Zach?
No.
What was your question?
That's mine. That was me.
Yeah, that was.
Right, but I know, but like Zach asked another question, like, why would I not?
And this is just sort of curiosity. Like, I don't know what your directives. I know we're getting very inside here, but whatever. I don't know. I don't know what you were told that you could and couldn't talk about. I know that I didn't think so.
I could or couldn't talk about anything.
Right.
It's all just assumptions, based on things you see
subtext,
around you in the building or around the industry. Like, okay, well, what's the norm? How far, not politically left or right, but how far outside of those how far outside the lines do I want to color? Like that sort of thing.
Is your take on sports the best thing you have to offer the world? Or is this something that you're doing and kind of wish you were doing something else?
No. how do I say this without sounding like a total asshole? The best thing I have to offer really is just me in conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It's
and it
asshole.
could be about anything. I wish I could take every audience member that I have and talk directly to them, not just in a chat, right? Like I wish they were actually like co-hosting with me,
Yeah.
or they were in the room so that I could react to them and just have a real conversation in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll see who's willing to say what, right? But that's what I have to offer is me. But you know, whether it's talking about music or sports, politics, whatever it is, science, whatever you rock and roll. That's what I
Do you ever realize that I feel like you do so much better on the East Coast.
Nah.
I think you would.
I've always found that well, I'm not saying that here is where I would necessarily do the best, but I've always found that being an outsider is better. I don't have to stand in line with everybody else who's like me this way. You know, I like you said with Brock or Terry or whoever, they get that built-in credibility. Well, I get the built-in uniqueness in that way.
Right.
You're the unbiased voice in the room.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I ain't been bought yet, so I don't have an agenda. You know.
Right.
Who do you think has been your biggest influence in the business since you've been involved? I know there's a bunch of them. I know as somebody who was new in the business, I learned a lot from watching a bunch of you guys, listening to a bunch of you guys, and just in general, just consumer of media. I took a lot from a lot of people. But who do you think you have taken on?
Well, I mean, if you're asking me like some people in the business that I like, very few. And I'll just say, as far as influences, when like interns ask me about who my influences or what my influences are currently, I always say my influences are everything. They are every bit of music, every movie I see, everybody I interact with. This conversation will influence me, no doubt. It will. It'll get me thinking about something, and I'll end up going forward and just making that little tweak or whatever. I get influenced by every bit of stimulus I encounter. But
there's that person that got you into radio. Who is that?
I mean, I listened to Mike Francesa back in, like, we're talking like, actually it wasn't him, it was really he and his partner Mike and the Mad Dog,
Chris Russo.
We're talking like 18 years ago now. But
Terry, you know Mike and the Mad Dog?
Mad Dog's still going, man. I got him on my series.
I got an interview with him on Thursday.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
I wouldn't say I got in the business because of them, though. I think I started listening to sports talk radio because of them. And then when I was sort of considering what I was going to do as a career, when I was like, okay, well, the music thing, I know what it's going to take to do that. I'm not really willing to do it. I think I could be part of this sports talk thing. I'm not sure doing what, but I could contribute to it in some way. And that's how I pursued it, or why.
Did you ever call? Were you ever a caller?
Yeah. One time I called.
Yeah.
I called WEEI in Boston.
I'm very familiar with WEEI.
Yeah, and
what show did you call? Which show did you call?
I called. It was then called The Big Show with Glenn.
The Big Show with the Big O. I lived in Boston, Tom. I know this show very well.
I called in like 2003, and I said the F word on the air, and they dumped me.
Do you remember what the topic was?
Yeah, it was whether or not Kevin Millar and his lack of power, whether or not it was justifiable to keep hitting him fifth in the order. Man.
Oh, talk radio callers. Yeah, I was I'd left Boston at that point, but I was probably and believe me, I have an opinion on what you just said.
Yeah.
Because I definitely called WEEI to strongly defend newcomer Trot Nixon's batting position at third about 70, 80 games into the 2002 season.
Yeah.
So, or no, sorry, the 98 season. Jesus.
That kind of dedication on the part of the audience back there. I mean,
yeah.
And I've said this to our audience before, so I'm not talking out of school, but Seattle audience, when the team doesn't do well, people just kind of turn around and look away and they don't listen. Boston, New York, Philly, wherever, if the team does poorly, they can't wait to get on the next day and be like, this team's terrible, fire the manager, whatever.
Oh, they're almost happier.
Yeah.
Terry, were you ever a sports talk radio caller?
No, never was. Never was. I honestly, I didn't listen to a lot of sports radio when I was growing up, just because I was just so ingrained in it. Like I was playing sports 24/7, all the different sports all year long. So, yeah.
I actually have a question for Terry. Did you ever pay attention to what was being said about, like you said, you weren't maybe aware of it, but like, I always wonder, how much like Doug Baldwin was pretty famous for being like what's called a P1, meaning like people who are going to tune into your station every day, because he was wondering what was being said about him, right?
Yeah.
And he's not the only player. There's however many. I'm not sure what percentage do it, but like, were you at least aware of it in that way?
I was.
Yeah.
I started getting more aware of it probably like honestly my junior year of high school, because I was playing football in Texas, and high school football in Texas is a whole different planet.
Yeah.
It's just a major thing. So, and high school was the only show in town, so I would open up the newspapers and see what the newspaper had to say about me, like every other day, to see what was going on. I'm like, okay. But the thing about it is a lot of players, they like to read the good stuff. And then they believe all the good stuff, right? All the good stuff is man. Tom said this thing about me on Tuesday, man. He's great, but when Tom said, I'm slacking or I look a little slow, I gotta call Tom up and be like, Tom, what are you talking about, right?
I wish they would call up when they hear me saying, X, Y, and Z about him. They want to call in, they're welcome,
Yeah, with that, and that's when they start talking about you don't know what you're talking about. You never played the game, so how could you possibly know, right?
That's such bullshit. And with all due respect, like, because somebody like, where do I even start? Think about whatever player says that. Does that mean that they have no opinions on politics or like something else that they've never been involved in?
Right.
F you. You think that somehow sports is the one area of life where if you haven't done it, you can't comment on it at all?
Well, I think it's one of two. I think parenting's the other one.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, I didn't mean to get you so fired up, Tom, but I just know that's a common theme for a lot of people get from athletes. You don't know what you're talking about because you never played this thing.
Yeah, I know there are maybe some aspects of it I don't know what I'm talking about. But I can tell you that on 4th and 2 the other night, running an end around to David Moore was a stupid thing to do. That play made no freaking sense.
Yeah.
And I would agree with you. That was a dumb play. But yeah, I think it's a fallacy that a lot of people get, caught up in a lot of times. Especially a lot of these athletes that will say it. I haven't heard it in a long time. I think a lot of guys are starting to get over that, are starting to understand that some of the some of the best coaches maybe weren't the best players or even ever played at all. So
yeah,
I think it's a common thing. If you're a great player, you're a bad coach. Like you think about the tremendous Hall of Fame in any sport, really, athletes that then become great coaches, and it's a very, very short list. Usually, it's people like Eric Bieniemy, the best offensive coordinator in the league. He was a good player, not a great player, but you're never gonna see Jerry Rice be a wide receivers coach because they would never know how to talk down to someone who is not at their level of greatness.
Right, and they just may not be qualified. They may not be good communicators. They may not be good with people. There's all kinds of different skills that go into being a good coach or a GM or whatever it is. And
plus, I'm sure, Tom, people tell you that they could do your job better a lot. And, they're not radio hosts, but feel qualified to speak.
They can speak about radio, though. Like they can talk about it. That doesn't mean they could do the job.
I'll give our viewers an example. So for a long time, I was one of those that, I could talk on radio, I could do that. And it went, I got a pretty decent personality. I got a pretty good knowledge of the game. When you go into that booth for the first time and you have this great idea about the Seahawks that you want to talk about, and you elaborate on it, and you realize I've gone 2.5 minutes and I got another 16 to go. What the hell am I going to talk about for the next 16 minutes before the commercial comes up?
Yeah.
Pace yourself.
Yep. There's a lot of reiteration.
There's reiteration. There's nuance. There's a whole, leading the conversation in different ways. I mean, there's lots of things that I picked up in the years. And by the way, Tom was one of the first people that, like, when I was in the building, because they used to not let us in the building while the lights were still on.
That's true.
And their show used to come on right before us. So I used to see them and watch them do their thing for like the first hour before we went on back in the day.
There's definitely a very deep camaraderie to people who have to work like nights, weekends, overnights. I mean, I worked weekend overnights for 3 years. And when you do that with other people, that definitely bonds you forever.
Tom, I forget, what show did you first produce? Because you were there when I was in Seattle in 2014 and you were there.
Yeah. Well, here.
What was doing then?
Here I did from 2011 to 14. I did Brock and Salk, and then Brock and Danny. It became later.
It was Brock and Danny.
Yeah, but before that at ESPN, I did from 06 to 09. I did Bob Valvano's show, Jimmy V's brother. That was their overnight show then. And I produced another guy named Jason Smith. But that was just, when I first got hired there as a lowly production assistant, that's the training ground, and that's where they give you your opportunities. So do it.
And then you guys had it was you, Justin, and who's your third?
Oh, at that time it would have been Andy Bunker, who's now in Atlanta.
Bunker, that's right.
Yeah, he's doing this in it. He's doing, I think, evenings in Atlanta. He's good people, man. He's good people.
Good dude.
But you're better than him. That'll be the hardest thing to shake, Tom. When you hear shit people still on.
When I hear what?
Shit people still on.
It'll be hard to shake.
Yeah, it'll be hard to shake that resentment. It hasn't caved in on you yet.
I don't have resentment at all.
You should.
No.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm not itching to get back
going on right now
in the door in this industry.
You're not what?
I'm not itching to get right back into the door, into the same type of position.
No.
I mean, I might, but
I think you would in a second.
No.
Really?
When I go through, look, as I look around to see what's out there, and I see some positions open, say in, I don't know, Dallas or wherever. I don't just, or Chicago where my brother lives. I don't just jump on it. I don't want to do it.
Really?
I get it. I'm not second guessing you. I don't question you at all, because I understand. Like, you see the landscape of the industry, and you see
it's a bad year. It's been a bad year.
And you see what your lifestyle is like right now. Maybe you might not want to upend your Seattle experience just to go to Chicago.
Yeah, is this kind of where you want to be in Seattle for? Is it being in Seattle that is most kind of
I'm trying to
preventing it?
I'm trying to decide. This is an interesting thing, especially since COVID hit. Do I need to be in Seattle to talk about? Even if I just decided I'm only going to talk about Seattle sports, do I even need to be here to do that? I mean, like when I was doing the Mariners pre and post game show, I did that for 3 years. I was there, visible to the players to an extent, before, not so much after the games, but before in the clubhouse. But how essential is it that I be doing that in order just to talk about the things that my audience is going to expect of me? I don't think it's that essential. I think I could do it from anywhere, really.
That's what I'm saying. The landscape of the business is completely changing and revamping. obviously, if you're doing terrestrial, is that what they call it? The radio, normal radio? You don't even have to be anywhere. So if you're doing your own thing, you could realistically be anywhere on the planet that you can get a Wi-Fi signal and do your thing.
That's
so
right.
I guess
I mean, at first I might feel disconnected. Right. For a little bit. But I mean, so 2 things about Seattle. The cost of living here, as you guys know, is absolutely outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're employed, to a greater extent than I am currently. And also the weather. I'm just tired of the weather, I got to get somewhere warmer. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Can we talk about some recent sporting events for a second then? Since we got here? I mean, I got a couple of things that popped up that are really intriguing to me right now. And this past weekend, I want to get both of your takes on the boxing event, if that's what you want to call it, that took place. There was the Mike Tyson and the Roy Jones geriatric match. Plus, there was the Nate Robinson and Jake Paul. First, I want to address the Nate Robinson and Jake Paul. What do you guys think about that one?
I was so fucking happy to see Nate Robinson get knocked out.
Oh, come on, man. Don't do it more like that.
A YouTuber. That made me really happy.
No, it's not just a YouTuber anyway. He's not just a YouTuber first and foremost, but
Jake Paul's more than a YouTuber?
Oh, yeah.
What else does he do?
He's a fighter.
He was
trained to fight.
Okay, so he already had the competitive. He's a bigger dude. He's bigger than Nate.
Yeah.
But so he has a boxing background.
Yeah.
Okay. All I know from Jake Paul is that what I read over the weekend. I'd never heard of him before, but it just kept saying YouTube star knocks out Nate Robinson. So I was happy with that outcome because I thought that's awesome. If a YouTube star wins over a professional athlete like Nate Robinson, I'm always going to be on the side of the YouTube star. Now that you've given me this new information that he has some boxing background, I'd have to reevaluate. But I had no knowledge that this was even going to happen. I did watch a replay of the Tyson Roy Jones fight, and Tyson, to me, dominated the whole thing. 54 versus 51. So yeah, they're 2 older guys, but Tyson looked great.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw him training leading up to this for a long time. I was afraid for Roy.
Yeah.
I actually didn't see the fight, but I figured that Mike Tyson, I mean, I didn't expect it to end in a draw, but I expected Mike Tyson to kick the living shit out of him. Honestly.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys knew this, so I'm gonna give you guys just a quick. One of the reasons why he probably didn't kick the shit out of him, because they had some ground rules beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ground rules, and this is just ridiculous to me, was that there could be no knockouts. They had to have a boxing match, and they had to agree there was no knockouts. So why even have a Mike Tyson fight if there's no knockouts, right? First and foremost,
right.
And secondly, if either one of them got cut, they were going to stop the fight. So it was basically a extravagant sparring match.
It was foxy boxing almost.
Flat boxing and midsection punching.
Does boxing matter to you guys? Like, are you guys both okay?
I'm kind of still old school. I still like to watch. I mean, I don't pay per view. I don't do it. I'll pay attention to it. I still respect the art form. But I know it has taken a backseat to MMA for sure.
There was a time when the heavyweight champion of the world was like the most famous person in the world.
I know.
And
I gotta tell you a story real quick. So like when I was still at 7'10", I went down to the Super Bowl when the Seahawks were playing in Arizona, playing the Patriots, and we were down on Radio Row, and I was sitting next to this skinny looking dude for like 30 minutes, just kind of going back and forth, talking to him, blah, 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 blah. And he's just kind of by himself, and he gets up and walks away. And I'm like, they're like, you know what? True Farm was like, you know what it was, right? And I'm like, who? He was like, that's the heavyweight champion of the world, man. That's Deontay Wilder. I was like, freak out of here. Like when I used to think about the heavyweight champ of the world, I'm thinking like an entourage of like 100 people some dude with a fur coat on, a big, you know, like and
entourage,
camera.
yeah.
I think
No
some not just sports, but just areas of interest from maybe, I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm 41. So like I
I'm 24.
was old enough to know what life was like before the internet like really splintered everything,
Not
you
me.
know? And so there are just some things that got affected by the diversification of interests and availability of like just everything. Like you go on
For
just
example.
YouTube alone, you go on there and find anything you want and be entertained in all these different ways. It's not like you just got, 20 channels of whatever, and that's what you're beholden to. I feel like in some way, boxing is just one of those things that was a casualty of all that.
Well, because boxing is large. I think the pay-per-view actually did a lot to dissuade people from remaining boxing fans, because you'd pay a lot. You pay $49.95 or $99.95, and then two things would happen. Rarely did you get a fight like you saw in the films. Like there was no Raging Bull type fights. It was either over in 40 seconds, or it was a lot of hugging for 10 rounds. And neither really felt that thrilling to watch. And then you realize you paid $100 for it. And you're like, well, I'm never doing this again. MMA comes along and is, I don't like MMA. I think it just doesn't appeal to me. But if you're looking for absolute violence, MMA is far more satisfying than boxing is. There's less art to it for sure, but you're going to see some blood, and you're going to see a lot more. You're going to see someone on the ground already, which at that point, the ref in boxing would wave the other boxer off. But when someone's on the ground in MMA, you can still continue punching them. That siphoned off a significant portion of boxing fans. And then just sort of the majesty of, like, the president of the United States would be at the heavyweight championship.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen anymore. And
I mean, it's interesting because I don't ever remember liking boxing for the violence aspect of it. I liked, like, at a certain time, I'm thinking, I guess, like late 80s, early 90s, you had like Tyson and Holyfield and Lewis and Ray Mercer, and remember even Tommy Morrison. Remember the guy from Rocky V?
Rocky V, yeah.
He was kind of an up and comer there for a while. Like there was a group of guys you could follow in the same way I think maybe people follow golf now.
Mhm.
And I don't follow golf, but I realize that there's like a group of maybe 10 or so guys that are worth watching, and any one of them could ascend on any weekend, so people watch if you're a fan of that. Boxing had that going for it, like its own little sort of community, and that was worth following. Something else happened along the way where, like, there was a million different belts, and there wasn't, like,
Yeah, a lot of
I
that
wrestled
too.
with this. Was it that there weren't guys worth watching, or would I have watched anybody and my interest just went elsewhere? I still can't really figure that out.
I think it has a
I
lot
just
to
didn't
do.
love it enough to like stick with it.
I think it has a lot to do with what Zach was saying too, because I remember, growing up, my dad was really into boxing, and I would be able to sit and watch boxing with him, like on Saturday afternoons, and you could just turn it on ABC and watch Wide World of Sports, and you could watch you could watch Roberto Duran and Sugar Ray Leonard, and there was no pay. You didn't have to pay money. You just turn on the TV and you could watch it, and then it was like a thing where your buddies would come over and you drink beer, or you and your son or whoever would watch it right on your television. Now, like Zach said, you're paying $49.99, $99 a hit. And I think back in the day when Mike Tyson was, you were paying $50 to watch a guy get knocked out in 40 seconds. Like you said, people were like, I don't want to watch this anymore. And I don't know if people just kind of lost interest in it from that point where it wasn't accessible to people anymore. You couldn't just turn on your TV and watch a Mike Tyson fight on a Saturday afternoon. And back then,
yeah.
Back then, and something I didn't realize well at the time, but now you go back and think about it. Mike Tyson was fighting like every month, like every other month. Mike Tyson was fighting on television, and now you watch a fight and guy fights once a year.
Maybe. Yeah.
And what
Tyson
we
was the
saw
last. Tyson was the
exactly
last
like-
boxing star.
Who was the last boxing star?
Tyson.
Tyson
was.
no, the last heavyweight for sure. I would think Tyson was probably last heavyweight. I think you got like Roy Jones.
I'd say maybe
Maybe.
Evander Holyfield. I mean, he at least was doing commercials. You'd see him on a McDonald's commercial. Like my mom knew who Holyfield was. So
Yeah,
that's always
you're
like
right.
my gauge. Like, she
But
knows
what's
who
he
King
best
is.
known for? What's his fight moment that he's known for?
Oh, he doesn't. I don't think he has one. But
Yes, he does.
Holyfield
Hit off.
Oh,
His
the
ear getting bit off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha. I think that's a Mike Tyson moment, but sure.
It is a Mike Tyson, right? But yeah, Holyfield. Yeah, that's the biggest in the ring moment that he's known for. And he was more of a household name. And then I even know the name of the one that came after him, Lennox Lewis. But these were none of these were to the level of Tyson, where it's like,
they were storyline.
That only Ali and Tyson, maybe George Foreman, ever had that kind of transcending even like the biggest actors in the world type status. I mean, Smokey Joe Frazier never had that. Ken Norton never, like even in the era of the great heavyweights.
I don't know.
Sugar Ray was a great personality.
Yeah.
Somebody did the sport, did commercials, did advertisements. I wasn't around back in the day, but I mean, Marciano
for sure.
Joe Louis.
Yeah, now we're going way
back in those days.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's a whole entirely different ball game. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah,
it has complete. I can, you have labeled it as when it started to wane. It was after Mike Tyson, after Lennox Lewis, and people like I don't know who was the guy after that. Like,
there hasn't
who
been.
was the guy?
I mean, I go on YouTube probably once a year, if not maybe twice a year, and I turn on the first round of Hearns Hagler from '85 just to watch that, because after you see that round, you don't really ever need to watch boxing again, because it's never going to get better than that.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most exciting round of any combat sport I've ever seen, and I can't see how it would ever be topped. It was that good.
Yeah, it is good. It's good boxing.
Yeah.
But anyway, go back to my original point was, the whole, I really wanted to talk about the Nate Robinson deal. I know you didn't see it, but just the whole idea of everything that's surrounding it now, because it's turned into something completely different. Because before it was just, the basketball player fighting a YouTuber. The fact that Nate got unconscious like that, now he's become the biggest social internet meme of probably the last 2020, besides the big black guy with no underwear on sitting on the bed. I think Nate Robinson laying on the ground like this is approaching that level. And I mean, I people are giving him a hard time because he participated in a sport and got his head knocked off.
Yeah, that's why I'm giving him a hard time.
And then Snoop's commentary. Snoop Dogg came out as the big winner on this whole thing because he had the commentary.
When doesn't he? Snoop Dogg has to be the most goddamn blessed person on the planet. Like he has his own wine. Did you know that? I don't even think he knows that.
Like it's called 17 felonies or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. And then now he's Corona's new spokesperson. Like this, and he hasn't put out a good tune in like 20 years, but we haven't looked to him for music in forever. Like he's just kind of fun to see palling around with Martha Stewart now. Snoop always comes out on top. I can't remember the last time, that someone got one over on Snoop.
You can't.
No. I mean, even Snoop Lion didn't work, but no one even made fun of him for it. He was just like, all right, I'll go back to Snoop Dogg, man.
The only way, and I'm not even sure if he could fail or flop in this arena, but if he ever gotten into an area where he had to be taken seriously on something, where he had to actually be in earnest,
yeah,
and he tried too hard. Something, it would be one of those like unforeseen consequences. But that would be the only reason why I think people might turn their heads at him, because you're right. I mean, doing what he's doing now as like the resident court jester is, he's just kind of.
But you know what's
impervious.
Crazy about that? I'm gonna tell you what's crazy about that. What you said that, because I too get that. Like when I think about Snoop and I try to think, if he had to do a serious acting role, or if he was, Snoop Lion, the accountant, you probably wouldn't take that seriously, right? But think about this: his career began more seriously than he was a gangster.
Yeah.
Like a real life gangster, not a pretend gangster. He was on trial for murder. Like they literally killed a dude.
Yeah.
And now he's transformed, like, from you can't get more serious than murder to where we see him now. He's on the thing. I told you about calling me on my seashell, on my shell phone.
Yeah.
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 So
murder was.
He's not a complete 180.
He was full on trial for murder. He wasn't he? Yeah, that was right around when he was first. I think that was even before he put out his own LP. I think he was just still kind of guesting with Dre.
Getting popular as the case was going on or wrapping up. I don't.
Yeah.
So I'll give you the hit. So his album was about to debut. He hadn't released it yet, and they murdered a guy. They had an altercation with a guy, he and his bodyguard, at a park. And they murdered the dude. And he went to trial as his album was just after it was debuted. He did the opening at the MTV Awards, and they came and arrested him.
Yep.
So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they did.
That's right.
Murder was the case that they gave me.
And
then he wrote a song about it.
They gave me.
That was it.
Right.
And now he could be a spokesperson for like an essential oils company. Like he's that wholesome. It's funny.
I'm gonna tell you real quick before we get off Snoop, because I just saw this like last week. The guy I saw that he built a new like compound residence type deal. It's ridiculous, like 60,000 square feet. Like it's completely like one-stop shop, like green. Like he has an entire studio, like a Hollywood studio that's all green. They said he could film like an entire Star Wars movie inside of it. It's ridiculous.
Wait, they did film it?
No, he said they could.
Oh.
They could. He said it's on par.
Wait, I missed that one.
No, he said it's on par with. Like if you see it's like a 60,000 square foot building, and like
that's the other thing too. Beyond murder, that dude's been smoking weed in public since 91, when it was actually that was a dangerous thing to do.
Right, like well before anybody was willing to even talk about like decriminalization.
No.
Like,
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, maybe. Do you think that his public smoking of marijuana like helped that cause at all? It's like, well, this guy's
100%.
Totally did.
100%.
Not then, but at some point it definitely did.
Right, along the line. So
yeah,
it's like, well, look at Snoop. He's not like, I mean, he killed somebody maybe, but he's okay.
Not.
I heard Snoop Dogg a long time ago in an interview said he actually is responsible for getting black people off crack and on the weed. You think about that. Like 91 and crack was killing us.
Yeah.
And then they come out with the chronic. And now everybody wants to smoke the chronic.
Yeah. Well, Snoop Dogg's a goddamn American hero. He really is. And I also like too, he was so unapologetic about weed. He'd be like, you should give it to your children. Like he was just such a over the top advocate for it. Yeah. But,
one more thing before we get off Snoop. He said there's only been one person ever to smoke him out.
Willie Nelson.
Willie Nelson.
It was Willie Nelson? Oh my God.
Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
Willie Nelson made him say, I quit. I'm going home.
So Tom, you're doing your show. You're doing your Twitch show right after this.
I'm kind of doing like a soft launch. So I did a post-game show last night I'm going to pop on for maybe, I don't know, 40 minutes or an hour tonight. I'm going to talk to Brady Henderson for a little while about
Gotcha.
the Seahawks, and then I'm going to just kibitz on my own for a little bit, and then
Yeah.
get going tomorrow.
Cool.
Yeah.
Where do people find you on Twitch?
Twitch.tv/The Tom Wassell Show.
Okay. Very good.
Or at Tom
On
Wassell.
social media, there you go.
At Tom Wassell. Well, best of luck to you, dude. It was great to catch up. You're a lot of fun. I always thought you were fun.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's good to see you, man. It's been a long time.
All right. Take care, guys.
Your hair's grown a long time since I seen you.
I'm digging the hair. I'm into it.
Are you? Usually it's like, way up there. But
No, I'm into it in a big, big way.
Back for you.
Okay.
It's very late 80s Kurt Russell, and I think you should keep with it.
I will.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, guys.
See ya.
All right, man.
All right. Well, there's Tom Wassell, Terry.
Yeah. That was Tom.
What do you think? Yeah, that was Tom. I feel like I love that he's in the afterglow. The afterglow of like when you scramble around and you try to figure out what you're gonna do next, and you're like, oh, you know what? I don't even think I'd get back into the business even if I were offered it.
Glass is half full right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I honestly I commend him for his approach right now, man. He's taking the bull by the horns and trying to run with it, man.
He's a talented dude.
It's a good thing when you have options. Maybe that makes you feel a little bit about the situation when you do have options. Right.
Yeah. So check him out on Twitch. I thought Twitch was like a video gaming channel, but maybe I need to invest. Didn't you? I thought that was where you watch people play video games. Yeah.
I have no idea what it was. I'm gonna Google it when I get off here.
Yeah.
See, maybe I can Twitch up.
Yeah, maybe we should be on Twitch.
Twitch.
So on Thursday, Terry, we're gonna have my cousin on. Yeah, this isn't becoming just like Zach's just talking to his family now via the show. He has been in several Hallmark and Lifetime Christmas films.
Oh, that's why you love him so much.
That's the only reason I love him.
I'm talking about the movies. I'm talking about the Hallmark movies.
Oh, the Hallmark.
That's my cousin.
Yeah, there he is. No, he normally plays like the best friend of the main guy who's like, how could you let her go? You have to go after her. So that consists between like 6 to 12 lines. But I thought it would be fun to have him. I would like to, because the Hallmark movies are such a phenomenon, and I can't. As America grows more cynical and divided and hateful and everything, the viewership on these things just continues to skyrocket. I think that's kind of fascinating. And
I might watch one movie.
You better. Have you watched any of this season too?
Not yet. I just now really started getting into my Christmas music. So
we're December 1. Yeah.
Bit of time.
So even the latecomers.
I had a glass of eggnog this weekend. Put the Christmas music on yesterday.
Yeah.
Movies
That's
next.
it. Let's do it. Can you see Santa?
I saw him back there. Yes, sir.
Isn't that neat?
It is precious.
Yeah, it's so precious.
He's precious.
All right. Good to talk to you, man. Let's connect again on Thursday.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right. Yeah, Anarchist jurisdiction. Share this shit. Find our podcast anywhere podcasts are fine. We'll talk to you.